Hello, welcome to the HealthInn Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all. But sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the HealthInn Show. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and I, along with my guests, hosts, are here. We're so excited about being here with you today. We love being with you each and every month. We do the HealthInn Show on the second Tuesday of the month, so mark it down. In fact, keep the pen and paper handy or your computer or your phone, because you're going to want to take a lot of notes, because today is the show for the world. And with that, I want to just remind everyone you are welcome to comment, ask questions, give us your information, your strategies for what we're going to talk about today. Please join us. You're welcome to put your name, nickname, whatever you like under the video that you see on the screen, and just add your name and comment whenever you like. You can put your nickname there. You can call into the studio at 919-518-9773 anytime you want. And you can also join us on Skype, and that would be to Skype to voice, and that would be just voice, not video. So don't worry about how you look or where you are or anything. We just want to hear from you, that's all. And you're more than welcome. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce to you today Menon. Hey there, how you doing?
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good. Tell everybody about you, Menon.
We're talking about self-care, so I'll give you some context of what my life every day looks like.
Well, before, just to share, just before, because I want to go to Ashley too. So before we get into the actual conversation of self-care, just tell them a little bit about who you are. Then we'll go to Ashley, and then we'll talk about your life, and if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a homeopath by profession, a mom of 6 kids, still married to my high school sweetheart, so stable relationship, and that's about it.
Well, that's a lot. We're going to get into more about Manon and her life and how she did that, because I want to know. And then next is Ashley. Hey, Ash.
Hello, everyone. It's my first HealthInn show, so I'm really excited to be here.
And tell everybody who you are.
I'm Ashley. I've been a homeopath for 3 years. Well, with experience of 3 years. I've been officially a homeopath for almost 1 year. I just graduated. I'm working on my postgraduate program. That's hard to say. Say it 3 times. And I'm based in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. I'm a mom of 2 boys and I homeschool, so I have a lot on my plate when it comes to self-care. It's something that I struggle with, but I'd love to talk about the topic because I can relate to it fully.
Well, it's a really important topic. It's one that I can't wait to hear what your strategies and how you have managed and juggled, because I am an empty nester at this moment, but it doesn't mean that I don't have a lot of juggling to do, because as I told you all earlier, my mom's turning 98 and I help take care of her. So there's a lot to talk about. I am a life business coach. I am also the CEO of HWC and do a myriad of other things, but I am so happy to be here, and this is a really important subject. So, and then Amnon is in the background making sure that we're here. So we are happy to have him, and he will chime in when he has something to say. So we're happy for that. So Menon, you want to start with us with this?
I guess what self-care is, I've been thinking about this. Self-care is different for everybody. And I think the first thing that we have to realize is what is self-care to us? A lot of people do self-care according to what other people think they should be doing. So I'll hear a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to get a massage because that's good for me. And I'm thinking, well, I don't particularly enjoy massage, so it wouldn't be self-care for me. The way that I did self-care was I would go with what would feel good. If I was feeling like a certain type of food that day, that's what we had for dinner. If I was feeling like going for a walk, I would ask my kids to come along. So it was more a go with the flow whenever it worked out, without being selfish and self-centered, because that eventually wouldn't work. You've got 8 strong characters in the house. Anybody who's just looking out for themselves wouldn't make it work. But my strategy was mostly, did something feel like it would be good right now? We would go along with that.
How close in age are your children?
They are 14 years apart. My youngest now is just turned 19, and my eldest is 26. No, 30, sorry. She was born in 89. Do the math. I
Or
never remember my kids' ages.
I don't either. I don't remember their years or their ages. Is that telling you something? Um, so I am sure one of the things you had to do on a regular basis with having 6 kids. And did you have a career then too?
No, actually, the way it happened, and I tell everybody this, is after my husband, who and I had been, my present husband, when we were dating at the end of a year, his mom was a professional in a time where women didn't work outside the home a lot. And he was an only child. So I didn't know what he expected later on. But I said, after we've been dating for a year, this is getting a little serious. So I basically sat down with him for a coffee one day and said, look, what I really want right now and see myself living is, if I get married, I want 6 kids and I want to stay at home. So if you're not on board with that, run now. And he didn't. So I knew what I thought I wanted then. It so happened I didn't change my mind, but I knew this was something I wanted for myself. And I had a university degree. So basically, I knew he was expecting me to work in that domain because his mother was working. So that's why I said, look, I don't want to waste your time and my time and have a really hurtful breakup later on, because this is not the life you want to live. So if you can't see yourself in this life, then we better quit now and go our separate ways. And he didn't. And I didn't change my mind either. So that's what happened.
So we're going to get into more of Menon's story. You'll hear some of my story. We're going to hear Ashley's story. We may even hear Amnon's story, and we may even hear some of your stories. But one of the things I want to mention at this moment, what was one of the things Menon said, is that she sat her intended down and expressed her dream, her desire, her want. And we often think of self-care as, what can you take? Who could rub your back? What kind of cream? What kind of day off? What kind of food are you eating? All of those things. But asking questions and asking the right question and taking care of yourself is another form of self-care. Don't forget that. Anytime you put yourself out there, and putting yourself first does not mean that you put anybody else last.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that. And that's commendable what she did. So listen to that. That's important. Did you want to comment about that, Menon, at all before we go?
No, I agree with you entirely. I never thought of it that way, but that's exactly right. You have to be able to express what you want and what you need, feeling secure to do so. If you don't feel that you can say, this is what I want, and have a discussion about that and how real that is, then you're not with the right people.
That's very good. And whose ears do you have to get by first before you can even give it to somebody else? Your own. You've got to be able to you have to turn your ears on to whatever the dialogue is going on inside. And if you scrutinize it and you beat yourself up for it, it ain't going to somebody else. It's going to stay. So you don't want to do that. You want to listen, you want to honor, and you want to do the things that you want to do. Otherwise, it's not going to be relayed to anybody else. So that was a good thing. You were very sure and you handled it really well. So so lesson number one, ask the right questions to yourself because you're going to be answering, and answering that question is the answer is that you share it with somebody else. That's an answer.
Mhm.
That right?
Mhm.
Cool. So Ashley, you want to talk about some of your stuff and then we'll all talk again?
Sure. As a mother, I feel like there's a huge misconception that self-care is synonymous to self-indulgence or being selfish sometimes. And it's absolutely not. It means taking care of yourself, being well, being healthy enough to do your job, being able to help and care for others. Mainly, if you have an empty cup, what are you going to give to others? You can't. And as a homeopath, I learned that as well, that if I'm feeling down, I'm not going to give a lot that day. So I have to take care of myself, my mental health, physical health, spiritual health. In every aspect, I have to take care of myself as a whole, or else I can't do my job as a mother, as a homeopath. I can't. What do I have to offer? And there's something that I always love bringing up when we have this topic of self-care, which is the oxygen mask theory. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it.
Mhm.
So it's one of my favorite analogies that I bring up when we do have a discussion about this topic. We just had a live a couple months ago talking about burnout. So I always bring it up, and it's basically, well, anyone here has flown in an airplane, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they always say in the event of a sudden drop in pressure, an oxygen mask is going to drop. And you secure your own mask first before assisting others. You have 18 seconds before you pass out. Did you guys know that? I hate flying. So that's how I know all these facts. I have a huge fear of flying. But anyway, using this analogy, you might instinctively think, oh, this is selfish. It's counterintuitive even. Why would I put on my own mask first? If I'm, next to my loved one or next to somebody else, I should help them. No, you have 18 seconds before you lose consciousness and you can't do anything else. So basically what this analogy is trying to explain is in order to help people, you must both be willing to help yourself. You must first help yourself. You must at least practice enough self-care to be alive, alert, awake. You must be selfish in order to be selfless. That's how I see it.
Well, that's a really important statement and a confirmation. And now you have also just completed some school, you have your kids, you're homeschooling, you said, and your husband hasn't been feeling well.
Yes,
And you take care of other family members.
I do.
Do you want to just confirm what I just said and like what's your winning self-care tool there? Besides wearing beautiful. Now, here's another self-care thing which I just want to mention before I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
Ashley wears great red lipstick. If you don't think that's self-care, you're wrong. Anything that we do that brings us good energy is self-care. And that she loves. And I love seeing it, and it brings me self-care because I can acknowledge it to myself that I love her red lipstick. I always do. So just like with Menon's wall, that's also self-care. Because if she loves that color, she's surrounding herself with the thing that she loves. And that's self-care. So keep that in mind. So Ashley, go ahead.
So yeah, I've had a lot on my plate recently, trying to keep my business going, helping clients, helping my family. homeschooling my children. So when it comes to self-care, I don't really have that time of day to sit down and have a cup of tea and relax. There's always noise around me. There's always chaos around me. So how do I practice self-care? As a homeopath, when I'm, working, I try to increase my awareness and try not to get too drained. I learned to recognize when I feel drained and take a step back. And I also like to set boundaries. I think that's a huge step to self-care, learning when to say no.
Absolutely.
Ladies.
That is one of the major components of self-care is when do you say no?
Yep. And I find emotional or professional support. I am the type of person that if I need help, I will say I need help. I'm not feeling well, even if it's like emotionally, psychological. I call Marilyn. I call Marilyn and I'm like, Marilyn, what do I do? I'm so overwhelmed. And I just did that a couple months ago. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I look up to Marilyn because I see her as someone strong who knows how to handle life. And if I need help, I'm gonna call her. Marilyn, I'm freaking out. What do I do? Seek consultation when needed. We don't always have to have the answers. It's okay to reach out for support professionally, personally. There's some things that are out of our scope, whether in your career or in life. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. So I find that self-care being setting boundaries and seeking help when needed. That's what I do. I don't have the luxury of sitting down and relaxing and meditating and I have, a 4-year-old climbing on me all the time. He's a mama's boy. I have 2 boys. They're mama's boys. They always want to be around me. I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. I have a little one knocking on my door. Mama, come out. So I see self-care for myself very differently as of now. I mean, I guess when I'm older and, they move out and stuff, I'm going to have some more time on my own. But for now, setting boundaries and seeking help when I feel I need it.
I don't want to discourage you, Ashley, but they move out, but they come back.
Oh, no.
And
don't scare me.
No, it's actually all good. I was listening to you going, there's a little one on my door when I go to the bathroom knocking on my door. And I remember the days when the kids were in the house. And you made me realize that we no longer have elders. Our family lives used to, I was lucky. I had a grandmother that was a sage. And I say that because anytime that that there was a problem, you could basically walk into my grandmother's house and sit down, and I would rant and rave, let's say, about my mother, as my mother, who's a really great mother. I would still rant and rave about her because that's what you're supposed to do. And my grandmother would listen and go, mm-hmm. And I wasn't thinking at all that I was talking about her daughter, right? And then she would go, well, what do you think? She would never give us advice. She would say, what do you think you need to do? And the answer was always, oh, I hate to admit this, but, I have to go and apologize, or I have to go and fix it, or, this is my responsibility. And she'd go, I think you're very wise, and off I would go. But that wisdom, and that for you, Marilyn, that's what you described. An older, wise woman, in the case of a woman or a man, that you can go and discuss, express, have her listen to you, and not give you answers necessarily, but simply be there with you to reflect on what you need, is really fundamental. And if you don't have that in your life, that is something you need to actually find, that relationship. So that's a very good point, Ashley.
Yeah, having a trusted mentor or just person or friend in your life is such a valuable asset that we don't take into consideration sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for saying that. And we all, I mean, and it's interesting because when I started working in a psychiatrist practice as a coach, I work with a lot of psychiatrists. I began to see that every one of them goes for therapy. And that was like, wow. So they don't have to have all the answers. See, we think we have to have all the answers. When you're somebody that people come to, whether it's as a friend or as in my practice, when people come to me as a coach and they're paying me to help them in their business or in their life, it's a responsibility. But at the same time, you don't have to have all the answers. So whether you do it for a living or you do it because you care about somebody and they come to you for help or support or whatever, you don't need to be the guru, the expert in anything.
Mm-mm.
All you need to do is listen, period. That is your power, your superpower is to listen. That gives you all the power you need to sit there, and you will have either the right question to ask, you will have the right comment, you will just simply say, Ashley, Menon, Sarah Sue, I love you, and that was brave. And if that's all that person needs that day, that is it. Do not put such pressure on yourself to think that you have to be all that and more. What you need to be is a loving human, and that anybody can use. And all the psychiatrists in my practice go for help, and that says to me that we don't have to have the answers. And the more you do help people, whether as a mom, as a dad, as a homeopath, as a coach, whoever you are, you need the support,
Hmm.
which is really cool, incredible. What were you going to say, Manon?
No, I was listening to what you were saying, and I was just thinking, absolutely. And that's one aspect. And then it led me to think, what made my life livable under my circumstances? Because of course I'm listening to Ashley going through everything that every mom goes through. Am I a good mom? Am I doing it right? uh, and there really is no right way of mothering and wrong way of mothering. There is only doing the best that you can do with the talents you have. So what worked really well for me was basically life balance. And I know we talk about it to the point where it's become cliche, but what did life balance look like? It's a moving target. My clinic is called Equilibrium because I've always thought that was the way that you can actually navigate through life with grace. And what I mean by that is you're going to make mistakes, you're going to correct mistakes, you're going to make decisions that you then realize you didn't really want that outcome. So give yourself the freedom. And how do you navigate through all of these things with flexibility, but at the same time, not so much flexibility that it becomes a question of having no consistency? So you need that combination. So the four aspects of a human life to me are physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And so if you're feeding those four aspects of your life with something, then that's important. If you're physical, for us was martial arts, because with a big family, if we played hockey or went swimming or went dancing, everybody had a different sport, it wouldn't work. Martial arts had philosophy, a good community. It was really, really good for physical well-being, and it gave my children discipline. And those are four things I really wanted for my kids. It was in one package, made it easy.
Hold on one second. This is brilliant because you want to be as thoughtful as you can. You make a plan like Manon. She had it laid out. She knew that would be something that all of her children, or the majority of her children, could participate in, and she could handle it. And that's a good setup for being successful, for your family being successful. and doing the right thing. So that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, the thing is, we want to give our kids everything, and if we give them everything, we might end up giving them nothing in the end, because you're running them around all over the place, and there's nothing left over for community, for interaction, for quiet time, which is the spiritual aspect of it. So the emotional was community, family, and we moved away from our families early in our marriage. So we needed to replace that family time that we used to have with a community. So I looked for people who were like-minded and who basically embodied the fundamental values that we did. We were very, very careful not to go towards communities that didn't have those values. So we knew which values we wanted our children to be exposed to. Mentally, we would challenge them with exercises. Both my husband and I are intellectuals. We enjoy thinking, coming up with ideas. My husband would bring M&Ms, which is not a very healthy treat, but balance, right? And he would get them to do mental math and then give them an M&M if they won. And so this kind of thing would happen in our house. And finally, the spiritual aspect. We happen to be to both be practicing Catholics when we grew up, and we passed that on to our kids. But had we been born in a Muslim family or a Jewish family, or that would have been our spiritual culture. But we try to give our children spiritual values, teach them that they have to stop and reflect once in a while on what they're doing and how they're living, and readjust if they didn't think that that was according to values that they wanted to embody. So we tried to keep that balance going. Sometimes it was more of one, sometimes more of another. But basically, when we found that we were lacking somewhere, we would readjust. And that's how we
Yeah, I'm
made it.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's how we made it work, basically.
And these are roadmaps, but you've just got to tweak for how you live and the size of your family. Ashley, Menon, and I are in different stages in our life. It's really interesting. And Ashley's got young children. She's at the beginning there. Menon is kind of in the middle, and I'm on the end. I'm a grandma. So our times are different, but we still are parenting, or I still am parenting. And I wrote an article for LinkedIn not that long ago regarding the best place for entrepreneurs to live. And this is a self-care thing. The best place, if you are a working human, is to live near your tribe, to live near your family, live near your community, live near a community that you want to be your community, just like Manon just said. Because at the end of the day, if you can't pick up your kids from school or you can't make it to the bus, you want to know that you can call somebody and they will do it. And that makes life so much easier for everybody. We share in the raising of our children, we share in the love, commitment to our families. We support each other in our businesses. Everybody wins. And our kids, the more people that surround our children that love them and that know their name will allow our children to be put on the map. That will help our children feel more secure in general. And that's a big deal. What were you going to say, Manon?
No, I was going to say that's absolutely right, because when my children were young, a couple of our friends had 4 children of their own, and his mother had had 10 children and had been exhausted by the experience. So whatever her culture was, she basically had baby after baby after baby. And by the time this couple had kids, this grandmother said, I don't care. I will come and visit, but I'm never babysitting your kids. And the daughter-in-law was appalled. She said, like, I don't understand. And I remember saying, you know what? I know that your mother-in-law, for whatever reasons, is exhausted and doesn't have this to give. And that goes back to Ashley's empty cup conversation. That grandmother had nothing left to give. I said, well, find yourself a non-biological grandmother. There are a lot of women out there who would love to grandmother your kids because they can't have any grandbabies of their own. And that person could act as surrogate. And so when she stopped being close to the fact that if you're not blood, you can get a grandmother, she actually found someone who was a surrogate grandmother and helped her in that way. And I remember the relief on this woman's face the day that she said, you know, such and such a couple are wanting to adopt our kids as their grandkids. And just the security of that. You're absolutely right, Marilyn. That is fundamental to security.
You know, what we're talking about, and then Ashley chime in because Menon and I could really keep talking. This is common sense on some level. It is common sense to have things pop up that say, I should eat better, or I should eat this, not this today, or I need more rest, or my bandwidth is clogged up, or the world is crazy today, or things are happening. Turn the TV off. I mean, there are certain things that are just common sense, and we, the three of us, if I could count, the three of us are here, and I'm none, to say here's permission to take care of yourself because we need you to. This is not a selfish thing, as Ashley said earlier, and Menon has been talking about. This is important. This is like what's going to save the planet. Self-care is so important. Not that other things aren't, but it's so important. And we're all dealing with it, every one of us. So Ashley, what were you going to say?
My input, like I said earlier, if we're burnt out, we give low quality care, whether it be our loved ones or our clients. We run the risk of showing up empty-handed for those who need us the most, which is not fair. That's why, like I said, we have to be a little bit selfish in order to be selfless. But I wanted to ask you ladies, how do you know when you're reaching that end point, that boiling point? How do you know when you're feeling burnt out? What signs? Like how do you reach that awareness where you're like, okay, I need to take a step back and take a little break? How do you ladies see the signs, or how do you ladies deal with that?
Oh, for me, it's easy. I got a trigger. I become impatient. It's that simple. And my friends and my children and my husband have permission to tell me, whoa, you've reached that point. So I think everybody has a trigger. You've got to find it. That's one of the important things in self-care is know thyself and give thyself permission to be human.
These things come as feelings, but they don't always come. The trigger or the end result doesn't always come till a little too late. It'd be great to be able to catch these things, is to be aware that I know that if I'm gonna go do some things for my mother, who's now 98, who's gonna be 98 next week, if I don't schedule when I'm gonna go and leave, I'm already gonna be crazy. I'm already like worn down, and bandwidth is too much. If I start to do too many things like that, I need to say, okay, I'm gonna go, take my mother shopping for 3 hours instead of having it endless. I need a beginning and an end, or I'm gonna be because I have to watch everything she does. It's exhausting. She's not going to be 98. I watch how she walks. I watch how she eats. I watch how she gets out of the car because I don't want her to bang herself. So at the end of those 3 hours, I'm exhausted. Not because I don't love my mother, I treasure her, but I'm tired from being on high alert, and that high alert is wearing can wear you down. So I am very careful about anything that's going to put me on that high alert. So I back off. I also think it's really important. Even look, if there's this analogy of, if you take wet cement, moi, we're all wet cements, right? If you take wet cement and you keep putting another brick on top of it, you're going to tumble. That building is not going to make it. And that wet cement needs to solidify. So if you don't take care of yourself, you are wet cement. And every time you put another thing on top of yourself, you are going to crumble. So you need to be very cautious on your stability, on your structure, so that it's healthy and that you can add more to it. Because we're not talking about taking away. We're talking about creating this harmony, this balance, because the more you do that, the more you can do. Not you may do less sometimes, but at the end of the day, at the end of the game, the more you take care of yourself, the more you help feed yourself, the more you can do. So it's not about taking stuff away. You don't have to lose stuff. You just need to find that balance, and then you add to it, and then you add to it. Then you find the balance again, then you add to it. It's a game. It's a constant game.
Hey
What I Go ahead.
guys,
Yeah.
there are some interesting comments in the
Okay.
chat
Good.
that you need to look at. But keep
Okay.
going, keep going.
All right. And then the other. So we're going to look at that, and then also I think it would be really. And if you all want to call in and share your strategies, we're going to get into a little bit more of that homeopathically. Like, what do we look for? What do we do? And in this world, nobody can escape. Nobody. I don't care if you're under a rock, you still can't escape some of the things that are going on in this world. You just cannot. And if we look at a lot of these things as what is it teaching us, as opposed to how is it hurting us, that will be very helpful, because there's gifts all around, even in the trigger or even in the exhaustion. There's a gift. Even when I am overwhelmed or whatever, there's a gift if I can find it, and when I've had permission, like from the rest of you. So I'm going to check out some of what's here, and we'll talk about some of this. But at the same time, maybe the two of you want to share what are some homeopathic, whether it's remedies or ways of applying homeopathy to creating balance, lives, or internal balance, or self-care. I mean, what would you suggest, and how do we go about it?
My number one to go to, Caliphos. And I always rave about Caliphos, but when I'm overworked, whether it be with my postgraduate program that I'm doing, or when I just have a really bad headache from giving too much of myself, Caliphos really helps me out. Another go-to is sepia. Sepia sometimes helps me out, but not as much as Caliphos. And before Menon starts, steering away a little bit of the topic of, personal life and how to balance stress and burnout in that area, I wanted to talk about professional life, about our career. How do we deal with boundaries and saying no and self-care and awareness when it comes to being a healer? Whether you're a therapist, healthcare worker, homeopath, how? How do you balance that? The stress of your personal life and the stress of your career. What do you ladies do? I mean, I have a list of things that I like to do, but I'm curious as to what you ladies have to say. For example, me, I try to decide how my clients will be able to reach me. If I have just like open communication, I'm going to have people emailing me and calling me all the time. You have to set boundaries to how you're going to be reached, how you're going to be available. You have to have empathetic conversations with your clients as well. If they're crossing a line, you have to have, open communication in that sense with them. Know when it's time to, if you ever feel like something's out of your scope or you're feeling too stressed out, saying no to them as well. It's sometimes it's harder to say no to clients versus your loved ones, because with your loved ones you're more comfortable. But how do you say no to clients? I'm wondering how you ladies deal with that.
Well,
Go ahead, Marilyn.
Well, I also I encourage my clients to text me if they want, anytime they want. They can call and leave a message anytime they want. They can email me anytime they want. We're working on things. As long as they are working with me, they can contact me anytime. Now, I know that there are emergencies, but not every emergency is an emergency. So sometimes I will answer. I do that because it's easy for me to say, if a client contacts me and it's a Saturday night at 8 o'clock, if I'm available and I can send them a message, I do. I manage it well that way. That way, things are calmer in general, and I can do it anywhere. And I encourage my clients to do that. Now, at the same time, if I can't, I already said it up front that you can call me anytime. That doesn't mean I will answer, but I will as soon as I can. So I think if we, just like with Menon did with her husband when he wasn't, if you set things up ahead of time and you share ahead of time what the expectation is, what the guidelines are, you will have to remind people because they may not listen or hear it, but it does give you power. It does give you the acknowledgement to know I've told them, and I have that freedom not to answer. So that is number one. I also tell myself that the last time at night that I will take a client is 6 o'clock at night. After that, I don't do it. So it doesn't matter who calls me, I don't do it. So there's certain things that I have made non-negotiable. And you've got to establish, again, Menon did that. She sit down, she knew what was non-negotiable. She wanted 6 kids, period. Now, there was no guarantee, but that's what she wanted. And that's a really important thing. So we have to establish what we want and feel and speak it up. So those are a few things. I'll turn it. Oh, here's Deepak. Hi. Hello.
Hi,
Hey there.
Hello,
Hey.
hello everyone.
So did you come in to say something in particular or to listen or what?
Yes, Berlin, thank you so much. And today I listened the entire topic in my car, and now I'm at my home. So what you are discussing, this is really wonderful, and that base topic. So when we are talking about the homeopathy, then how homeopathy works in this case. So first, I am telling you that there is no need of any kind of medication in the initial phases. You just do a counseling. You just understand the perfect way about the psyche. In the initial phase, I already wrote in the chat that the initia, nectamu, Sabina are the medicine which is well selected remedy for these kind of stages. As Ashley already told about the Kali phosphoricum. So Kali phosphoricum is working, but only in the titration phase, like in the 6x or in the 12x. So at this show, we are not prescribing the remedy, but we are discussing about the homeopathic remedies, how they can work. So in entire world, homeopathy is the only science which connect the physical symptom with the mental state of a individualized body. Like if a person is having the fever or if a person is having the loose motion, then how it was the mental state, like how much he is irritable, how much he is getting the sleep. That is also important for, to treat the fever with the homeopathy. So yes, many times we need a medicine, but maximum time in the initial phase, we need to understand the perfect psychology. We need to understand about the uh, lifestyle. We need to understand the female or the male for the first what actually doing. So in every case, what we are doing, we are going to the history from where the illness is started. So if you miss that, you miss the whole case. So history is the very important. So the disease is not coming in only in one day. It takes a time. So we need a history. So that is from my side.
Great. You came in at the perfect time.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much.
And I
yeah.
just wanted to add that I agree that with Dr. Sharma that when you use a homeopathic remedy for self-care in this context, you still have to apply the laws of similars. So to add to Ashley's example, for me, if we had, for example, a workout that was very, very demanding, I would get muscle pain. And what happened was the next day I couldn't think. If I was overworked muscularly, if you like, my brain was mush. So for me, the what would have been the self-care remedy at that time would have been arnica. So if I knew that I was going to be exhausted, I would take arnica so that the next day when I got up in the morning, I knew what porridge was when I needed to make it for my kids. So that could be part of self-care, your homeopathic remedies, but that's also something you have to work out with your homeopath, um, more than something more universal, like taking a bath when you needed to take a bath, or taking a walk, or getting away and relaxing, or getting a massage. So to me, that's not the same sphere as, yes, having a good homeopath should be part of self-care. And going to your homeopath when you feel that you're run down and you need support is part of self-care. Like Marilyn was saying, the psychologists have a psychologist when they need emotional self-care because they're going to be exposed to a lot of emotional stress from a lot of people going through some terrible times and difficulties. And because you're an empath as a therapist, well, hopefully you're an empath as a therapist, you're going to need some support with dealing with the burden of that. So,
Right. I mean,
Yes,
these.
Manan, here is about 250 years ago, Dr. Hahnemann sir was wrote about the medical observer, and he wrote that you must be a good medical observer before a physician. First, you are a medical observer, then you are a good physician. So, what is actually a medical observer? That who understand the actual physiological phenomena in the individualized patient or in the sick patient. So the whole chapter, about 4 to 5 pages of this chapter, the medical observer written by Dr. Henman sir, about 250 years ago. So we need to understand the actual thing about the medical, who is actually the medical observer and who is the medical doctor. So you should be a medical observer first, then should be a medical physician.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
And there. I mean, we're talking about some of the things that you know if you have 6 kids, if you have 2 boys at home, if your husband hasn't been feeling well, and that's going to automatically add. If you have a 98-year-old mother, every day I wake up, I'm scared. I can't help. There's a part of that the realization. Um, And then there's a part of things that you don't know how it's affecting. You don't even know it's affecting you. You walk out into the environment, things are going to affect you. You need to take as good a care as yourself as you can to help yourself in the environment. We recently had the smoke thing that happened, right? There was an accident in Canada, and the sky was orange in New York. The sky was orange in Washington, D.C. The sky was orange in Pennsylvania. You couldn't even take your kids out. Our kids the after school program here in North Carolina was canceled. There are things you cannot control. But taking good care of yourself is self-care for the things that you don't even know is circling you. We're all faced with this. So the better you eat, the better you take care of yourself, the better you can handle if you go out in this atmosphere and something's funky. It is your right. It is the gift that you take and give. So with that, who else has Ashley, you've been quiet. What about you, honey?
No, I just, as an endpoint, I wanted to say that we have to be aware that we as healers, homeopaths, therapists, consist of many other parts: mind, body, soul, spirit. And we have to take care of those as well to allow us to help grow connections, grow as a person, and just evolve. We are the people that our loved ones and our clients look or turn to during the worst times of their lives. But we're people too. We have good days, bad days, and difficult times. So my quote is still, you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. That's all I have to say.
Well, I'm none. You're listening too, right?
Yeah,
What are you doing for self-care?
whatever my doctor tells me to.
Well, okay. Okay. All right. That's good. And how's
No,
it
I
going?
mean you gotta do things that will, after years and years, you learn what to do for yourself, and it's don't take too many medications, don't do certain things. Um, I use a lot, and Kathy does too. My wife, homeopathic remedies, and it works, and that's what counts. And it's great to know that you're doing something for yourself that is not hurting in the long run.
This,
And I believe it doesn't.
yeah. I remember when I would go to the studio and I'm not, I would come in and make sure that he would eat. So his blood sugar wouldn't go too down every time, right?
Yep.
There are certain things that you just can't put on a burner. You've got to take care of it.
Yep.
And whatever that looks like. And it could be different for everybody, but it's important that you take a look. So, Menon, what final suggestions, words, comments, guidance do you have?
Well, for me, first of all, know, as you said, there's certain things that you can't put on the back burner. So know yourself and know your needs. The second thing is, if you know your needs, have the ability to address them in a timely manner. And then just basically enjoy life in all the richness and diversity and beauty that it'll bring to you. Be grateful for the things that you get. Take care of the things that are problematic right away or as soon as you can. And enjoy the people around you.
Enjoy life. What about you, Deepak? You got any final gestures?
Yes. Uh, if you we are talking about the self-care. So self-care meaning the happiness from inside. If you are working very hard, but you are now not happy, then you cannot be care yourself anymore. So be happy, whatever you are doing. If you are not happy, you just let go from the work. So that is only my final words. We need a happiness. It's from inside.
It is, and it is, and you ever hear of Eckhart Tolle? I saw him. He wrote the book Power of Now. I saw him many years ago, and it was at a conference, and he said, "There is no such thing as the pursuit of happiness. If you're in the pursuit, what does that mean? You're in the looking, the finding, you're in the traveling. You're constantly looking for it as opposed to it being right here. Find the thing in this minute that you can be happy about. And there can be all kinds of things. If you're sitting here watching us today, be happy. If you're even up, be happy. If you had some good coffee this morning, be happy. If you had coffee that wasn't so good, be happy. Whatever you can choose, even any little bit, find the happiness in it, because that helps make all the difference in the world, spiritually and internally, all of those things. You can't do it without it. You can't be a good observer, a judger. You can't judge life or triggers if you don't work on your inner happinesses, right? So, Ashley, what about you?
I'd like to conclude with a few reminders.
Good.
Infuse yourself with self-care. Maintain a work-life balance. Take time off to relax. And find a great leverage support system, and you'll be fine. That's it. Be happy.
Ask yourself sometimes, when you're in the midst of a situation, what is the worst that will happen? If you don't go here or you don't do this, what's the worst that will happen? And then ask yourself the question again. And then what's the worst that'll happen? And then what's the worst? And then until you have no answer, until you're at a point where you can let it go. Because there's a lot of things that once you ask that question, the bubble deflates, the balloon deflates. It isn't a big deal, and you can let it go. Analyze your life that way sometimes, and take a look and say, what's the worst that will happen? And when you run out of answers, then you have an answer. So this is a great conversation, and I'd love, and I think it's a really important one for us to continue having. So remember, Homeopathy World Community, the HealthInn Show is a subsidiary of Homeopathy World Community. Menon, tell everybody about the book club.
Oh, the book club. That is my my passion. This is one of the things I do for self-care. Our authors are fantastic. They send us books. I read them, and Richard, my partner in crime, sets them up. We interview them. We have had wonderful, wonderful authors, wonderful, wonderful thinkers, because if you take the trouble to write a book, you've thought about it a lot. So we hope that you'll join us in asking questions to all these wonderful authors that share their knowledge, their wisdom, and their thoughtfulness with us. And thanks, Marilyn, for allowing me to plug this.
Absolutely. And then just come to our website and Homeopathy World Community, you'll see it. Go ahead, Ashley, next.
Can I mention our next event?
Yes, after you will come in next.
Okay, perfect. So we're having an eye opener on when was it? Oh wait, no, wrong graphic. Give me a second. Wrong date.
Good.
Okay, Men's Mental Health Spiritual Wellness Circle is coming up on the 19th. We're going to be discussing men's mental health, the stigma surrounded by it, learning how to break and overcome the stigmas to help your loved ones cope and find help when needed. And that's on Monday, June 19th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time with Dr. Sakshi Gupta and Chanel Sander and myself. So I'm excited about that. So make sure to join us.
And if you look at there's a comment in here on the comment thread about men's health and wellness, and how men handle balance. I think women may have it better than men, so that might be a really good add-on into that conversation that you have. If you have time to do that, that would be great. And
yeah. You need to tell people where.
Right. HomeopathyWorldCommunity.com.
There you go.
Thank you. And I am a life business coach and work with all these magnificent homeopaths. And I also have become recently an influencer on Instagram so that we can share all these kinds of information, videos, strategies. Please find me there at Marilyn Listens. I would greatly appreciate it. Anything else? Final word.
Follow Marilyn on Instagram.
Follow me, please.
She's amazing. She gives great advice. I'm on Instagram as well, Homeopath Ashley. I like to make videos weekly and just give random information and facts about homeopathy. Menon, are you on Instagram?
No, I'm one of the disconnectors.
Well, we need those too.
Part of my self-care is to get off media. I have programmers in my family. We've always been very technologically savvy, but it doesn't reach me as much as person-to-person contact. So that's where I put my time and energy.
And everybody's entitled to do it their way. That's why we have all these choices. So don't get overwhelmed with choices. Deepak, what about you? Final anythings?
I just request everyone to join our show HealthInn and SWC at homeopathywordcommunity.com. And yes, my again words are be happy with your work. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all. We'll see you next month, always the second Tuesday in the month. We'll see you then. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.